Hello to creating jobs in Jenkins. In the following we'll take a look at what a Jenkins job is, and we will also check out the different types of jobs. And we take a look at the different ways to create them. The section will also cover the scripting of jobs via the Groovy API and the job DSL plugin. Another topic is then the usage of Jenkins file to make build settings part of your software project and how to utilize pipeline libraries there. We wrap up by showing how Jenkins files can help to handle certain build dependencies. We will now talk about the creation of Jenkins jobs via the user interface. In the following we will see what is a Jenkins job and what types exist, and on our setup we are using a pre-configured GitLab and Jenkins installation, so you don't have to hassle around with the configuration on your own. On this base we will practice the job creation. We are going to create several jobs and compare the differences. So build jobs are the heart of the Jenkins build process. Simply put, you can think of a Jenkins build job as a particular task or step in your build process. This may involve simply compiling the source code and running a unit test, or you might want a build job to do other related tasks, such as running your integration test, measuring the code coverage or code quality metrics, or to generate the technical documentation or deploying your application to a web server. A real project usually requires many separate but related build jobs. Jenkins supports many different kinds of build jobs, but all of them are consisting of a set of tasks. These tasks can also accept input and generate output, such as logging to the console. Each job has a status: not built, aborted, failed, success, and unstable if there are failing tests. Additionally, each job or each run of a job is called an iteration, and each iteration has a unique build number to identify each iteration. So let's come to the different types of Jenkins job. The freestyle build jobs are general purpose build jobs, which provides a maximum of flexibility. Maven project is a build job especially adapted to Maven project. Jenkins understands the Maven POM files and the project structure, so it can use this information from the POM file to reduce the work you have to need to set up in your project. Pipeline projects are provided via the pipeline plugin and are using Jenkins file for describing the build. We will cover this later. An external job lets you keep an eye on non-interactive processes such as cron jobs. The multi-configuration project, also referred as a matrix project, lets you run the same build in many different configurations. This build feature can be useful for testing an application in many different environments, like in different databases or in different browsers. Folders helps you to organize many jobs together, but keep in mind if you're moving jobs between folders, the URL is changing too. Multi-branch pipelines are working the same way as pipeline projects, but they're working across multiple branches in your version control system. We will cover this in section 3. So to create the job in the user interface, just go to the Jenkins main page and select new job. Give the job a name, select a type, and then submit your changes. So let's do it now together and add a job to our Jenkins installation. To do this, go to this code sample folder and execute the Docker setup shell script. After running the Docker setup shell script, we will see a lot of output that is pre-configuring all of our setups here. So you see that it's setting up Jenkins already, and after a while you are seeing the user interface. But let's take a look at the configuration. So we see the Docker setup here. It just ensures that no other container is running already, and it's expanding the GitLab data zip file, which is a pre-configured GitLab repository, and it's then booting up all the containers. So it's reading the Docker compose file, and here is a Jenkins defined and all the GitLab components which are needed to keep GitLab up and running. Depending on your computer and network performance, this can take some minutes. And after a while, you should see this message here that Jenkins is fully up and running, and you can now change to the browser, and you see that Jenkins is already up and running here. And we also see if we hit reload for the GitLab installation, we already see that our GitLab is up and running and we have 3 repositories already available here. So let's go to Jenkins and create first a folder. Let's call it freestyle, because we will later on add a freestyle project in this folder. We are now within the folder. We can add a new display name and a more descriptive text here. But it's good for us. So let's add a job within the folder now. Create a freestyle project here. Go to GitLab and pick up our Spring Boot sample project. Copy the URL. And you see in a build configuration, we can add a source code management entry. We will add a Git repository here, and we will now get an error that the credentials are needed. So as our Jenkins is already pre-configured, we can just select the credentials here, and it's now working. We can also specify the branch we want to use here. And we can define several build trigger. We can say that we want to trigger it from scripts, or we want to run it from other projects if another project is already built, or we want to add a cron entry here for period. We can also set up GitLab to directly push a Jenkins build, or you can just add a poll here, where you can just add a typical cron entry here. So we to have it around every 5 minutes to build, to poll the version control system and check if there are any changes. We can say what environment we want to have, different options here. And let's now add a build step here. We want to invoke just a shell script. We say we want to invoke our Maven wrapper here, and make a clean install. And we can add several post-build actions here. We can archive the artifacts. For example, we can say we want to archive the jar file. Hit save. And here's our first build job. We'll now try to build it. We can monitor the output here. If we click the build number and go to the console output, we'll see it's already starting to download all the Maven dependencies here. And after the build is completed, we see here in the log message that the Maven clean installer is worked. And the build has now the status success. And we also see the status here because we have a green bubble here. So let's now create another folder and show the difference with the Maven project. Now we create now a Maven folder. Save the folder. And add a new item here, also sample. Copy again the URL. We enter now the URL again. Select the credentials. So the header is the same as in the freestyle project. But we now have difference here. We have pre-step, the build, and the post-step. So the post-steps we already had in the freestyle project, but the pre-steps can be used to invoke, like in the freestyle project, some shell script or other things here. It's already picking up that it should use the POM file. We just have to add the Maven target here. We can also define post-build actions here, like publish HTML reports and so on. So let's save it and run this build again. So after saving our Maven project, we can now start the build. And we can monitor the console output here. We'll see that it's now starting the Maven build. So, and after all the tests and the build is complete, we see that also here the build is successful. We'll also see a green bubble here, but there are some differences here. We already see test results, so we don't have to configure the test pickup for the JUnit test result. We are seeing that we have one unit test here, and we also see which Maven modules are built. So we have just one module, but there are more details already here than in the freestyle project, and we don't have to configure it on our own. So to sum up what we learned so far, we now know what a Jenkins job is, we understand the concept behind it, we can use the types accordingly, and besides we also created some jobs practically.